Moving to Hawaii is a big deal. I mean, actually moving anywhere is a big deal, but oftentimes we make these videos in hopes that we're answering your questions. We ask you to get in touch with us through the links in the description box. You can email us at info@dwellhawaii.com, and we say, like, whatever questions you have, let us know. But today I'd like to do something a little bit different and frame some of the questions that maybe you should be asking yourself, just based on past experiences with our clients, things that they've discovered, things that have surprised them, things that make them love Hawaii more than they thought, things that make them not love Hawaii as much as they thought. And our goal, of course, is to work with you if you're planning a move out here. I would imagine if you're watching this, that's the case. But we also want to make sure that whatever decision you make is one that is well informed. So let's get right into it. Here are questions you should ask yourself before moving to Hawaii. Question number one, am I okay with how isolated it is? We are a group of islands that are sitting in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. The nearest landmass is going to be California in the United States, and that's about a 6-hour-ish flight away. Same thing with the nearest airport or landmass in Asia. We're talking about Japan, I would say. Japan's about a six and a half hour flight away. Things are shipped here, so things take longer to get here. They're more expensive as a result, which we'll get into that in a moment. I think one thing to really consider, and we found this with our one of our clients, they bought here, they're like in the prime of their life, on the verge of retirement, and about less than a year in, they realized that they missed their grandkids. And I have to say that this is something that I've experienced. Having lived on the mainland and missing family. My sister moved to Vegas. You've heard me say this on other videos. We've got a podcast about it as well, just as a lot of people from Hawaii moved to Vegas. And my sister took her kids. At the time they were like 6 and 10. Now they're 15 and 11. And the years go by so fast. Kids grow up so fast. I think between like our 20s and maybe 40s, things kind of stay the same and seem to slow down, and then they speed up again with our parents. My mom and dad followed my sister to Vegas just 2 years ago, and in these 2 years, although that's pretty short, they're up in their 70s, and I feel like every time I see them, I can see the age on them. I'm flying out to Vegas tonight to go see my mom, and it's a real chore, like sitting there and booking the flight. It takes like half a day, call it a day, to get there. And so all that to say, you may not see your family on the mainland if you're leaving them as much as you think you will. It takes a lot of intention. I know there are people who do it, like they'll go home, every 3 months or so. But I would say most people don't do that. So that is a big consideration if you're planning a move out here from the mainland and if you're leaving family and friends. One other thing about it being isolated, time zones can be tough. If you are somebody who works remote, we're 3 hours away currently from California, or 3 hours behind California. In the winter, we'll be 2 hours behind. We're 6 hours behind New York at the moment, and then when the time change happens, it'll be 5 hours. So yeah, just a lot to consider in terms of isolation out here. All right, question number 2. Will the high cost of living cause me to fall out of love with Hawaii? Have I looked at how much things really cost? Everything is shipped here, so I said that in the first point. So we've got something out here called the Jones Act. Don't ask me what year that was enacted, but basically what it means is anything coming to Hawaii from another country has to stop at a US port first. If it's coming from Asia, usually it's gonna stop in San Francisco, and then it's gonna come here. So this makes things take a lot longer to get here, but more importantly, it makes costs of goods much more expensive, and then it ultimately makes services more expensive as a result as well. We filmed this video last week, and I wasn't satisfied with the way that I did it, so I decided we would redo it, and that's what we're doing today. But during that one, we went into Whole Foods. Okay, milk. Organic low-fat milk, a gallon, $8.89. That's regular price. It's actually not that bad. I Googled this morning how much a gallon of milk is here in Hawaii, and it said between like $8 and $10. So that's actually kind of normal. Let's move on to eggs. Okay, eggs, they vary between $7.29 for a dozen eggs, and that's omega-3, organic. I guess everything in Whole Foods is pretty much gonna be organic, but local eggs, $11.49. So again, I would say this is pretty typical. This is what you would find even at Safeway and Foodland, but of course, your cheapest shopping is going to be in Costco. I was actually kind of surprised that it wasn't as expensive as I've often made it out to be, but we do have Costco out here, so that's gonna be probably your best bang for your buck, although you have to buy everything in bulk. Things do go bad quicker here because everything's on a ship. And with the humidity, like you can't leave your butter out on the counter. It's gonna break down. We have a lot of critters that wanna get into your food. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit, but back to cost of living. Gas, average statewide at the moment is $4.50 per gallon. On Oʻahu, it's about $4.40. Kauaʻi is just shy of $5. So you're gonna find that things are even more expensive on the neighbor islands because that's just one more port or one more path that things have to go. Home maintenance can be quite expensive, and this is also something that you're gonna have to do on an ongoing basis. We've got sunshine all year long. We've got rain, we've got wind, we've got humidity. You know, it's not like your house is ever going to get a break. So paint, you're gonna have to do that probably a lot quicker than you would for your home on the mainland. If you live by the ocean, that's going to be additional maintenance as well. Our homes are also generally older, so with that, you're gonna have more maintenance as the house ages. Furniture is expensive, and we don't have a lot of variety here. That can get kind of frustrating. Snacks, electricity is the most expensive in the nation, I'm told. However, one of the solutions to that, of course, with all of our sunshine, is PV, and you'll notice a lot of houses have PV or solar panels on the roof. Okay, let's talk about real estate. I'm gonna look at my phone for this because I wanna make sure I'm delivering the right data. Of course, you'll hear that real estate is expensive, probably the most expensive in the country per square foot. California is pretty expensive too, and I find that our California buyers don't really have the sticker shock that a lot of other people have. I went to high school in Missouri. I was born there. I just took a trip to Missouri, and the real estate prices were so shocking. One of my friends just bought a beautiful home for $450,000, and I was like, this house would be like 4 or 5 million. Depending on the neighborhood, of course. If you're in Kahala, which her style of home, I would say, would be like a Kahala house or a Diamond Head house, and I would say that it would be about $4 or $5 million. In a neighborhood that's a little bit more inland or not in as prestigious of a neighborhood, it would probably be like 3 to 4 million. Anyway, let's get into the actual median prices for you. On Kauaʻi prices right now are $1.1 million for a single family home, $875,000 median price for condos. Kauaʻi is a different type of market. The condos were built more so for vacationers rather than for people who actually are like starting out, where you'll find a lot of that here. You'll find that entry-level real estate on Oʻahu is gonna be mostly condos and townhomes, but that's not the case on Kauaʻi. On Maui, single family homes, median price is $1.3 million and $700,000 for condos. Maui is the same way. Condos, townhomes were built typically in the beach and vacation areas as second homes or for tourists, or rather, I guess they were built just in these more idealistic areas as opposed to being built inland. So the prices are reflective as such. On the Big Island, Big Island's interesting because you've got like 3 main areas of the island where there's real estate. Hilo is very different from Kona, which is very different from Waimea, which is very different from the Kohala coast. But our real estate data is given by county. So the county of Hawaii, or the Big Island, has single family homes clocking in at $540,000, and then the condos are $800,000. Same story there again. Most of the condos and townhouses were built in the vacation zones. Neighbor islands might see between 30 to 40 sales per month. Here on Oʻahu, we see sales that are around 250. So that's another consideration. Most people live here on the island of Oʻahu for various reasons. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And then I think like question 2A is, do I have enough of an understanding of the neighbor islands? When you say you want to move to Hawaii, are you looking for seclusion? Are you looking for nature? Are you looking for more of a vacation type lifestyle like what Maui has to offer? Are you looking for old Hawaii, which is more what Kauaʻi has to offer? Are you looking for vast open spaces? That's probably going to be more of the Big Island. In general, Oʻahu tends to appeal to the masses. We have about 1 million people on this island. You've got a mixture of restaurants, you've got shopping, we've got a big military presence here. So just a lot to consider, and I would say that that would lend itself to having a deeper conversation if you are looking to move to Hawaii. Of course, I'm a real estate agent here on Oʻahu. I'm licensed in the entire state. Koa and I can help you with all of the islands, but really our specialty is here on Oʻahu. A little bit more on cost of living before we move on to property taxes. Or rather, I'm gonna go back to like the neighbor islands. So we had a client that bought a home on the Big Island. She moved from California, and the Big Island was just like what they loved. They went there during a certain time of year where the weather was kind of just more their vibe. It was sunny, and anyway, they bought a beautiful house, and then they realized that the Big Island wasn't really their cup of tea. And so then they came looking here on Oʻahu and bought a house here instead, just because they felt like their decision wasn't thoroughly thought through. They were shocked by the real estate prices here on Oʻahu compared to the Big Island. So again, this is just really why we want to have a thorough conversation with you about the neighbor islands and the costs associated with the real estate in particular on the neighbor islands. One other thing to touch on is insurance. Insurance has been a real challenge across the nation, but we are feeling it a lot here in Hawaii just because of the Lahaina fires and of course all of the natural disasters that have happened throughout the United States and throughout the world. Of course, Hawaii is in an impact zone when it comes to tsunamis and hurricanes. So there's a light that's been shined on Hawaii and has caused insurance costs to go up quite a bit. And so this is also going to lend itself to you determining what's most affordable for you in terms of condos and houses. For some homes, especially those that are closer to the beach, it's really hard to insure. I shouldn't say really hard to insure, but it can be a little bit more of a challenge to insure, and the costs, of course, are going to be a little bit higher there. Maintenance fees have increased significantly because of insurance as well. Again, I'm really getting into the nitty-gritty details, and this is something that we would want to have a private conversation with you about. Yasu's chuckling at me right now. But yeah, anyway, that's all I have to say about cost of living. Let's move on to property taxes. Number 3, property taxes. Property taxes are the lowest in the nation here on Oʻahu, but the question for you is, have you considered that state income taxes are actually the second highest in the nation? Smartasset.com says that in order for a person to thrive here in Hawaii, a single, they need to make $110,000 per year. So if that's true, and you want to be somebody who thrives here, you will be in the 8.25% tax bracket. If you go into the upper levels of $300,000 or more, you'll be hitting the 11% tax bracket. So something to consider once again in terms of cost of living, but more so in taxes, and definitely something that you should weigh if you're looking at moving to Hawaii. Question number 4, will I go to the beach, hike, watch sunsets as much as I think I will? I have to say that this still takes a lot of intention. Now, there's something to be said about living in a place where you know you can do those things. And I think that I often have said that before too, like, could I live on the mainland? I don't know if I could live away from the ocean. And honestly, I don't go to the ocean as much as I would like to. I make it a goal to go once a month, which is really sad. I do know a lot of families that go like every weekend to the beach, but it takes a lot of intention. when you're on vacation and you're staying at a place that's close to the beach and you've got all the time in the world, it's really easy to just like grab a bag and walk down there in your swimsuit. But when you're here and you're working and you're in kind of like the rat race of life, you know, it's tough to make that time. And then in addition to that, parking, it is crowded here on Oʻahu and in other parts of the state. And so getting to these beaches that maybe you've gone to when you've been here on vacation might be a little bit harder. I mean, even finding parking at this spot this morning was tough. Like you kind of just drive around in circles and you wait for a parking stall to open. There are times that it weighs me down personally. Like if I'm at work and I'm, you know, looking out the window, I've got a nice ocean view out of my window and I'm like, gosh, it's such a beautiful day. I really need to go to the beach. And it's like, when am I gonna go? You know, I've got all this makeup on, I've got these nice clothes on. And yeah, I don't do it as much as I would like to. And so if that is a reason why you're moving, if it's because you love all of this natural beauty and all of this ocean and opportunity, really have that question, answer that question for yourself, whether or not you're actually going to have the time and be able to do all of the things. And if you're not able to do all of those things, is that going to cause you to fall out of love with Hawaii? Question number 5, do I really love the weather? Okay, I don't know, this is kind of a weird question, but I saw something yesterday on Instagram that said a bad day in Hawaii is better than a good day somewhere else. And it's really actually very true, but I'm gonna be candid. It's really easy to become a brat when you live here in Hawaii. And we were enjoying all of this sunshine, and look, we had to run away and sit in the car because it's pouring. That rain moved over from Manoa, and it's likely passing, and we'll be able to go back out and film in like 3 minutes. Because the weather is so ideal. Pretty much all year long, it's between 75 degrees and 85 degrees. The hottest it got this year was in September. It was like 94 degrees. It's never really hit 100 except for one time back in 1931, and that was over on the Big Island. As far as cool weather is concerned, the coolest it gets might be like 58 degrees in the winter, and that's like for a minimal number of days. I think the coldest it ever got in Hawaii or on this island was something like 54 degrees back in 1969. So it's pretty much like this all the time. But right now, Yasu and I are like, oh my gosh, it's so hot. It's humid today. We've got these onshore sea breezes. Normally the trade winds blow east to west, and that makes that 70% humidity very tolerable because it's like you've got this natural AC. However, if you don't have AC in the home that you live in, and just a little bit of a warning, most houses don't come with AC. Central AC is being put into the newer homes in Ho'opili and Koa Ridge. Of course, you've got central AC in our condos here in Kauaʻi. Actually, that's not true. Some of the other condos are doing split ACs now, where you've got the compressor on the outside of your unit. Apparently that's less expensive for maintenance overall for the building. But yeah, if you don't have AC in your home and you have a day like this where the trade winds stop or the wind is blowing in a different direction, I mean, you're really going to feel it. There are days that I miss the Four Seasons, you know, having just come back from Missouri. My husband and I did a vacation there. The leaves were turning. I could feel the chill in the air coming. And then I'm like, but then there's winter, and that's like 5 months of misery. But yeah, I would just say, you know, it can wear on you in a way just because it is so awesome. And so I will say it does take intention to really appreciate all of the good things about Hawaii. And if you feel like, I don't know, your patience might wear a little bit thin and you're somebody that gets over things quickly, maybe that's something to really consider. What about natural disasters? Thankfully, they haven't happened very much. We did have a tsunami warning like last month, and it got us all scared. Anytime there's an earthquake off of Alaska or Russia, we are in danger of a tsunami, but we have a really good tsunami warning system here. So typically you'll be alerted like hours before it's expected to arrive. We've dodged the bullet in terms of hurricanes in recent years. One of the biggest ones we've seen was Hurricane Iniki back in the early 90s, and that really impacted Kauaʻi, we do get these torrential rains probably once a year where like flash floods happen. Fog is something that we're dealing with right now. Yesterday it was quite thick. There's a volcano going off on the Big Island right now, and our winds have shifted, so the fog blows in. It can affect your allergies. You've got a lot of like fauna and flora here, so if you've got allergies, that might be something you want to consider. And if you've only visited Hawaii like once or twice at like one particular time of year, I would recommend spending a little bit more time out here or researching the allergy aspect of everything a little bit deeper. Fun fact, maybe not so fun, kind of a sad fact about natural disasters. So during a big summer swell last year, so waves aren't always big on the North Shore. Here on the South Shore, they get big in the summertime, and on the North Shore, everything gets really flat. So that's one thing to just kind of know about the surf. But anyway, going back, the summer swell came in here, and the Atlantis ship, wasn't the submarine, was the boat. It like ran aground here on the reef and was stuck here for a couple of days, and it was actually pretty scary. I mean, this is a pretty popular surf break, so you can imagine like this ship coming in here and getting stuck was just, I don't know, scary and kind of a big fat bummer. But I don't know. We've been really, really lucky not to have any major natural disasters as of lately, but those things are a threat and something to be aware of. Am I okay with a slower pace of life? Now, I'm not just talking about slow in the sense of like that hang loose Hawaii, you know, laid back lifestyle. That certainly exists, but it also bleeds over into the area of inefficiency. For one thing, like the traffic is slow. To go like 2 miles, it might take you 20 minutes. And that's because there's potholes on the roads. There's a lot of people on the roads. Our on-ramps are also off-ramps. Our streets aren't necessarily built like a grid. It's an island, it's a circle. So you typically will have like one arterial street, and then you've got other streets that do a lot of this. You've got one-ways in Waikiki, one-ways in downtown. You've got like 2 main streets in Honolulu, which is Beretania and King Street, which run like this. And you have to kind of know which streets you can make a left turn on and which ones you can't. Most of them you can't. Our speed limit tops out at 60 miles an hour, and that's on the H3 or on the H1 going out towards like Waianae for like a brief moment. And then other than that, our speed limit is pretty much 50 on the freeway. Sometimes it goes down to 45 miles per hour, and typically in traffic, you're not even gonna reach those heights anyway. So for those who really like to go out and drive, that can feel quite frustrating. Our state is understaffed. Our infrastructure is pretty antiquated, so efficiencies just seem to like kind of go away. If you're calling a handyman to come do a job for you, the conversation is gonna go like this. Hi, so-and-so, I've got, my toilet is kind of like making this funny noise and I need you to come out. Oh, how's it, sis? Oh, how's the waves? Have you gone surfing lately? Oh, you know what? I gotta check my schedule. I'll call you tomorrow. It can be so frustrating. If you're coming from like New York City, if you're coming from Tokyo, like Yasu, which is like the most efficient place in the world, it can be very frustrating, but it's also something that you kind of just have to surrender to because it ain't gonna change. I was talking to a lender the other day. He was super frustrated. He was doing the loan for our clients. And we always say it's better for you to use a local lender, but if you wanna use your lender on the mainland who's licensed here, we're not gonna fight you on it. But it can get quite frustrating throughout the transaction because your lender is gonna be on you saying, hey, I don't have the termite inspection report yet. Oh, how come they didn't respond to me about this yet? In Texas, we would have had it 2 days ago. I love Texas. But anyway, that kind of has to go out the window here, and you really kind of have to surrender to the slower pace. We drive slow, we talk fast. I guess that's a great way to put it. Where are my friends and my community? I often say that it's tough to make friends here in Hawaii. For one thing, we are so into our families, and there's a lot of multi-generational living. There's a lot of connection to our aunties, our uncles, our cousins, our second cousins. You know, going to elementary school and all the way through high school, people don't really move around. People usually stay in one place. And so there's these like generational deep relationships. And so if you're moving here, it can feel a little bit tough to break into those circles. At the same time, though, we've got a strong military presence here. So I have found some of my greatest friends, people that I keep in touch with who have since moved away, have been people that served in the military. We've certainly helped a lot of people PCSing here to Hawaii and buying places. And I find that my military friends came from CrossFit. So if you join some sort of a fitness community, Pilates, yoga, F45, the yard, all of those are available here. Jiu-jitsu, different martial arts, soccer. You're gonna find that you're gonna easily find a community there, which I think is kind of a no-brainer. Some of my best friends are also from church. We have some really great churches out here. I go to one that's really sweet, that has a lovely community and really emphasizes getting together with people. So that's one really great way. At the same time though, if you want to be alone, it's pretty easy to just kind of like stick by yourself as well, to just like go to the beach and read a book. You're gonna have a lot of people around, but if you wanna be left alone, you certainly can and will be. And I would say that it is a little bit easier to isolate out here than you would think, even though there's a lot of people. People just pretty much like stay in their space. We'll talk a little bit more about that at the end when we get into culture. But yeah, just be aware that although Hawaii is known to be friendly and full of aloha, there's just a different type of spirit out here, and making friends can be a little bit difficult, and you just have to be really intentional about it. Am I okay with the critters in Hawaii? It surprises me. Well, it's not surprising me so much anymore, but a couple of years ago when we started doing these videos and people were reaching out to us, we had several clients early on that were like, are there bugs in that neighborhood? And I'm like, there's bugs in every neighborhood. So roaches, kind of like nothing you can really do about it. Even if you live in a high rise, you're gonna have the little brown roaches. You're gonna have the big, B-52, is that what we call them? 747, the big ones that fly. I've got them, they fly into my house every now and then. And after a while, it doesn't really freak you out. I know for some people, there are certain bugs that are super intolerable. My sister hates geckos. I love them. Most of us love them. How can you hate a gecko? Freaks her out. And I've known other people that get really freaked out by geckos. They will come in your house and they will become your friend. Centipedes, that's probably the worst of them. I pretty much won't squash anything, but a centipede I will. They bite really hard and it hurts. They're not necessarily poisonous, I don't think. I think there are some people who can have an allergy or a certain type of centipede that can affect you differently. Centipedes are poisonous? Well, never mind. I've gotten bit here at Ala Moana Beach Park. I was sitting on that cement block over there, and there was one that came out of a crack and bit me behind my leg. And I went to dinner that night and it hurt all through dinner, but nothing really affected me otherwise. Not a lot of wildlife though. And if you're a wildlife person, you're not gonna see squirrels, you're not gonna see chipmunks and deer. We do have wild pigs, so you'll see those every now and then on the roof of a car or in the back of a truck, because some guys just went out and hunted it and they're driving it down the freeway. But yeah, you're not really gonna see much wildlife otherwise, which is something I really appreciate coming from Missouri. There's no snakes when I go on my hikes. I don't have to worry about mountain lions taking my dog or coyotes squealing at night. But at the same time, if you like those things and you feel like you'll miss it and you'll get bored seeing feral chickens and stray cats and mongooses, maybe something to think about. In terms of critters though, there is a lot of pest control here. We do encourage it. When you buy a house, you're gonna have a termite inspection. Termites can be quite a problem here, they love moist, cracked wood, and there's a lot of that here. So don't worry, we'll guide you through it. What is the job market like? Okay, so I know if you're looking at moving to Hawaii, you've probably already got a career path thought out, or maybe you are retiring here and you don't really need to think about it at all, but still something that's of an interesting conversation. So our job market, kind of a no-brainer. It's pretty much all tourism. So service jobs are plentiful, jobs in the hotels, jobs with the airlines, not a whole lot of tech jobs, tough to be an entrepreneur here. There is a bit of red tape. You know, you've got the tax consideration. I feel like Oʻahu especially, even though it's the bigger island in terms of population, I feel like it's really easy to be like a big fish in a little pond. So there might be one business or one entity or person who excels at something, and then it's kind of tough to break into that market because that person has like the share of everything. Relationships are incredibly important in terms of career. My husband has even kind of like struggled through that, you know, changing different jobs and getting discouraged and saying, well, I don't know anybody there. So there is that element of everything. A lot of remote workers out here lately, and they tend to love it because they're like up early doing meetings at like 4 a.m. and then they're done with their day by like 1 or 2, and then they're able to go out and enjoy all the things that they moved here for, you know, the surf and the sun and the hiking. But yeah, I would say our job market, you know, it's not all that exciting, and it's pretty much gonna be your service jobs. Our military actually is one of our largest employers out here. Department of Defense, you've got your government jobs. Yeah, I guess that's all I have to say about that. You can become a realtor, there's that too. What about schools? You can Google this and it will be like loud and in your face. We don't have the best reputation for having very good schools, public schools here in Hawaii. Your private schools, however, are amazing, but they're also amazingly expensive. Punahou is one of the best. Former President Barack Obama went to Punahou, and the yearly tuition right now is $32,000, and that's a K through 12 school. We have friends that send their kids there, K through 12. You could only hope that that education is going to be so worth it that they get scholarships and that you don't have to pay for college after that. But I don't know, maybe not the case. Punahou, Iolani, Mid-Pacific, those are kind of like the top 3 private schools. You've also got St. Louis, and then university, you've got UH, which is great. I don't know. I went there for a couple of years, and it was a good experience. Actually, I went to one of the community colleges, but I will say with regards to our schools, like there's not a whole lot of like school spirit. On my trip back to Missouri recently, I went there for homecoming, and you know, the marching band went through and everybody from the town came out to the parade, and there was just that real like sweet pride with the school. I can't say that we necessarily have that as much here, you know, Friday night lights with the football and all of that. However, we do produce a lot of NFL athletes, so maybe, I don't know, maybe I just haven't gone to enough football games. There's Kamehameha Schools, which is the private school for those who have Hawaiian blood. My husband went there. So that's a really sweet school if you ever wanted to like check it out or attend or really get behind Kamehameha. You can Google that too. There's a lot in the news about it right now. But yeah, I would say our schools aren't known to be the best. I feel like there's potential for them to get better. They are building new schools in Ho'opili. There's a new school that's supposed to come to Koa Ridge. So as these new communities emerge, there's new schools and more opportunities. So hopefully we'll see some good things come out of that. Do I really love the food? And do I really love this wind? My hair is just like blowing in the wrong direction today, but whatever. Okay, getting back to food. Our fish is incredible. I have never eaten fresher fish really anywhere else, but we don't really do like the halibut or trout. It's mostly, you know, Pacific Ocean fish. You're gonna have really great sushi. I take that back. I've eaten better fish in Japan. Yasu's like, come on, Mila. A lot of our food here is Asian influenced, so you're gonna have more like Pacific Rim type of food. I don't know, I could be just being bratty, but sometimes when people ask me, where should we eat? We're coming to Hawaii for the first time. I'm like, oh, I can't really think of anything, you know, because a lot of what we do is sushi, or we'll go out for like teppanyaki, or, you know, Korean barbecue, that kind of stuff. So I wouldn't necessarily say that those types of foods are specific to Hawaii, but I don't know, we do have like really good like local food. So if you're looking for like traditional local plate lunch, you're not gonna find those anywhere else. And if somebody tries to make plate lunch in other places of the world or on the mainland, it's just not the same. There's something about eating like a chicken katsu plate in the middle of the day after an awesome surf session, or like a hamburger steak with gravy all over and like, you know, a loco moco, those types of things. But as far as like nice dinners are concerned, or like just this really like incredible thriving food scene, I feel like we had it. It was a little bit better at one time, maybe pre-COVID. We're coming out of it. So some of my favorite restaurants here on the island, one of my favorites is Merriman's. I love the atmosphere. I love the farm to table vibe. Merriman's does have locations in other areas throughout the neighbor islands. There's one on Kauaʻi. They originated on Maui. There's another one on the Big Island, I believe. Mexican food, really hard to come by. You're probably gonna miss that a lot if you're coming from the mainland and coming from a place that had really good Mexican food. I feel like that's kind of a staple, especially in the Midwest, in California, in Texas. But yeah, you're not really gonna find that as much here. It's gonna be something that you miss. But yeah, we have pretty good food. But if your only experience with food here in Hawaii is in the hotel, and that's what you love, it can be a little bit frustrating trying to duplicate that in some of the other neighborhood restaurants. What about healthcare? I would say our healthcare is pretty good here on Oʻahu. Now, it's mostly most of the more advanced healthcare is going to be here on Oʻahu, so I find a lot of people have to fly here from the Big Island, from Kauaʻi, from Maui to get like more specialty type of services. I've got a friend and a client actually that just moved to Oregon. She just came back to Honolulu to see her doctors, and I was like, "You're coming to Honolulu?" And she's like, "I really like my doctors here." So that was pretty encouraging. Health insurance wise, we've got HMSA, we've got Kaiser, and UHA, which is a really good local insurance company. They serve a lot of your smaller businesses. They're known to do a really good job at that. But yeah, I would say our healthcare is pretty decent. My mom moved to Vegas and she's going to the doctor quite a bit there. And I haven't heard her say that it's significantly better there than what she experienced here, although she's going to the doctor a lot there. I don't know if she just has more time or what, but yeah, I would say it's pretty good. And if you're concerned about healthcare, Oʻahu would be the island you would want to live on. What do I know about crime and homelessness, and what do I need to feel safe? Hawaii in general is known to be one of the safest states in the United States. Our gun laws are known to be among the strictest. Everybody has to register a firearm if you have one. It all requires permits. There's not a whole lot of hunting here, so I wouldn't say a lot of people have guns. A lot of firearms are actually banned, and the laws were tightened up in 2023, although I read somewhere online that the Supreme Court is looking to make it a little less strict. Whatever your thoughts are on that, I'm just giving you the data. Crime, it's mostly petty theft. A lot of homes don't have garages, enclosed garages rather. There's not a lot of storage built into homes. There's really no basements. So a lot of stuff ends up in the carport, which is just like really easy for people to walk around and grab. A lot of cars end up parked on the street. I've said this in other videos before, because of the limited parking on the property, because garages often get turned into storage spaces. Sometimes they get turned into living spaces as well, and man caves. So it just makes it a little bit easier to take things. We are in somewhat of a pressure cooker out here. Cost of living is high, so you know, people are out kind of wandering and looking to grab things for themselves. Homelessness, I've talked about it before on other videos. I've got a certain relationship with it. If you want to know more about that, you can watch our Waianae video. There was another recent video where I talked about it. But I would say homelessness is mostly concentrated within the inside of Honolulu. You're going to see it also on the beach in Waimanalo. You're going to see it on the beach in Waianae. Most neighborhoods, you're not going to see big homeless communities. Typically, we find that our homeless, they're struggling with mental health issues. They're struggling with addiction, which I would say, I guess, is kind of typical of any homeless population anywhere. I will say on my recent trip to Missouri, I went to downtown Branson. There were some homeless there. I felt scared. I don't always feel scared of the homeless here on Oʻahu. It's unfortunate when I see it. I don't turn a blind eye to it. My heart goes out to them. But I don't typically feel like they're going to hurt me or threaten me. it can get a little frustrating because there's a lot of homeless downtown. The streets will smell like urine. And I'm saying all of this just to be real with you so that you know what to expect and so that you do give some consideration to it. But for the most part, Oʻahu is pretty darn safe. Finally, are people really that friendly? And when I say I love the culture, what do I actually mean by that? So I've been thinking about the aloha spirit and the friendliness of people here in Hawaii quite a bit. And last week when we filmed this video and I scrapped it and decided to do it again, I was in this space where I was like, people in Hawaii really aren't that friendly. Like, people in Missouri are so friendly. And what I experienced there was just that, like, I don't know, that southern, like Midwest hospitality, people that are like, how y'all doing today? You know, you go into a grocery store and the person that's checking you out, checking out your groceries is like, not checking you out, starts to check you out actually. They're like, oh, what are you making tonight? Oh, we've got lasagna, da, 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 da. I feel like people don't really stop to talk to you as much here. Like, we are a little bit more private. If you've stayed in hotels and that's been the experience that you have found to love, you know, hotel workers are often going to be like, aloha, aloha. We don't really do that. Like, we're not walking around the park saying aloha to everybody. So the friendliness, yes, it's there. I would say in terms of culture, there's like this childlike personality here. So just as an example, we were at the beach earlier. How's that helicopter? It's okay. All right. We were at another beach earlier, and there was an uncle that was sitting on a picnic table, and he's like, hey, how's it? And I'm like, are you talking to me? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, oh, hi, how's it? And then he said, you guys surfing? And I was like, not in this outfit. And then I was like, what about you? And he's like, not in this outfit. So there's like this banter that kind of happens among people here, rather than that like real, like, let's stop and have a conversation with a stranger. Like, I don't know, we have this like sense of humor about us. It is hard to live here, but at the same time, there's this like tension with that relationship that it's so beautiful and where else am I gonna go? So I would say like that's kind of the aloha spirit in a nutshell. You know, like there's this gratitude for where we are. There's this recognition for the struggle. There's this, hey, privacy, this is my circle, my bubble. Don't come into my bubble, but maybe I'll let you into my bubble. I don't know. I would say that you also don't want to come here and try to change things, you know, like really get to know this culture, this laid back lifestyle. That's really what it's all about. It's not so much about what you experience in the hotel. So going back to my question, are people really friendly? We are, we're friendly, but it's a different kind of friendly, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I did this video today in hopes of enlightening you and really helping you if you are considering a move to Hawaii. Would love to have a deeper conversation with you if this is something you're seriously considering, and I would have to imagine if you've made it this far, you are. Please reach out to Koa or me. We're real estate agents here on the island of Oʻahu. We're licensed in the entire state of Hawaii, so if you're looking at living on another island, we can help you with one of our partners there. We've also actually done some sales over on the Big Island, over on Kauaʻi, so there are certain circumstances where we can personally help you. Reach out to us through the links in the description box or email us at info@dwellhawaii.com.